Welcome to Exception Court TV, a series of dev tutorial videos brought to you by Kevin Holditch. Hi guys, my name is Kevin and welcome to my Introduction to Git series. The aim of this talk is to dispel some of the myths you might have heard about Git being a really complicated to use source control system. I'm here to show you that it's really not that hard and it's actually pretty fun to use. Gives you a lot more power than a lot of other source control systems you may be used to. So without any further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, if you're following on with me at home, I'm using a Mac, but you can just as easily follow these instructions on Windows as well, and Linux. So if you're on a Mac, what I'd recommend doing is downloading a piece of software called GitX. You can get it from gitx.frim.nl. Just Google GitX and it'll come straight up. And if you're on Windows, I recommend Git Extensions. I actually prefer this software. So Google Git Extensions and you'll get access to that. Before we go any further, I'd also like to point out there's an excellent free Git book. If you just search for Pro Git, it will come straight up. You can download this book for Kindle, read it online, it's all absolutely free and it's an excellent book. But I'm presuming because you want to watch a video on this, you don't really want to read a book. Typical lazy developer attitude. I like it. Okay guys, so the next thing we're going to do is open up our command prompt. Now on Mac this is going to be terminal. On Windows obviously it's just command prompt or PowerShell. I like to use a replacement for terminal called iTerm. You can get this from iterm2.com if you wish to, but it's not necessary. Okay, so once you've opened up your terminal, navigate to a folder where you want to play around with Git today, and then create a brand new folder. This is where we're going to do all of our work. So I've created a brand new folder called demo. CD into that folder, and then run the command git init. Now git init initializes the Git repository. So once you press enter, you will get the message, surprisingly, initialized Git repository. Okay, so once you've done that, I recommend open up either GitX on Mac or Git Extensions on Windows. Click File, Open, and navigate to that folder you've just created and run git init inside. Once you've done that, you'll see the window open and it will look something like this. There won't be anything there. The reason for this is because we've just initialized an empty repository. So now we have our empty Git repository. The next thing we're going to do is create some files that we can track in Git. So to do this, we simply run the command touch a.txt. Now you can create the file however you want. I'm just doing it from the command line using the command touch, which also works in Windows incidentally. So if you open up Sublime here, you will see there's now a file called a.txt. We can type some text into here. This is a test. Save that file. Now if we switch back to our terminal, we will see that if we run the command git status, that Git is now saying, oh, I found a file, it's called a.txt, but at the moment I'm not tracking it. And by not tracking it, Git is saying that however you change this file, I'm not going to care, because until you tell me to watch this file for changes, I'm not going to do anything with it. And it even tells you how to track a file in the message given by git status. So to do that, you run git add and then the name of the file. It will look like nothing has happened, but when you run git status again, you will now see that it says changes to be committed a.txt, brand new file. So the changes to be committed is what's known as the staging area. So the staging area are files that next time you run git commit will be committed into Git. A commit is like, I'm happy with how things are right now. I want to commit and stamp that into history. So to run commit, you do git commit, surprisingly, and then give the name of your message using the -m parameter. So I'm just going to put first commit. Once you've done that, if you bring up GitX, press Command R, you'll see that now this appears because we've got to commit, and so you can see this in the history. So you'll also note that there's this little master next to first commit. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about what this is right now, as it will be covered in a later episode. But just so you're aware, master is the default branch you're given by Git. Okay, so now we've committed once. I'm just going to go through the cycle of committing a couple of times to get you used to the flow of how it works. So I'm going to create another file called B. I'm going to add that file into Git using git add b.txt. I'm going to commit that file with the message second commit, and then I'm going to run Command R on git x so you can see how things have moved on. So now you can see master is now pointing to second commit. Now, as I said, master is the default branch that Git gives you, and you can think of it essentially as a pointer. So one of the reasons that Git's branching and merging is so powerful is because of the way it treats branches as compared to other source control systems. It doesn't create a whole new copy of the files, it simply has a pointer to where you are. So we can see currently our pointer is pointing to second commit. So let's add another file. This time it's C. We're going to add that file and we're going to commit that file. Third commit. And now let's refresh git x again and we can see we've got 3 commits. Okay, so far we've only covered adding new files to our Git repository. That is, files that Git did not already know about. So let's go through the flow of what happens when you change a file that Git does know about, that Git is tracking. So we had our file a.txt that's got the text, this is a test in it. So let's write some text in here, this is another line, and save that. Let's move back to our terminal and run git status. So now you can see that Git's saying, aha, I'm tracking this file that you told me to track called a.txt. I've noticed that you've modified it. Now, it's almost the same flow as you had before because Git will not actually commit this. So if you run git commit fourth commit, nothing will actually be committed. So you could go to git x and nothing's committed. We're refreshing there. And the reason for that is because Git's just saying this is modified. I'm not going to commit it until you move it into your staging area, which you use the git add command for that we've already seen. So to move this into the staging area, we run git add a.txt as we've seen. Now we can commit, and that's the 4th commit. Now when we refresh using Command R, we can see we've got 4 commits. I hope you've enjoyed following along to the brief intro of how to commit in Git. The main takeaways from this video should be that only files in your staging area are committed. So that is, when you add a new file, you have to run git add to get the file into your staging area. When you modify a file, again you have to run git add to get the file into your staging area. And then when you run git commit, everything in your staging area will get committed. This gives you a lot of power and fine-grained control to only commit the files that you want to commit. So that wraps up part 1. Please come and join me for part 2, where I'll be going more in depth into how git add and git commit work and showing you some of the more advanced features that these commands can do. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you want to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. You can tweet me at KevHolditch. You can visit my blog, kevinholditch.co.uk, and you can subscribe to this channel by clicking the link down below. Cheers.